This conference
Okay.
will now be recorded.
Yeah. Okay, guys, let's start. So as I told you in yesterday's class, so to avoid to get more benefits from Docker, like high availability of our applications, creating load balancers, scaling and all, we'll use Kubernetes. Okay. So here, not like Docker. So Docker has only one Docker host, right, to maintain a containers. But here we do have like two or more worker nodes. So in terms of Kubernetes, we would call it as a worker node, not Docker host. Again, to maintain those worker node, one master will be there. So always from master only we'll manage our worker nodes to create our containers and all. And again, the containers like we won't create directly. There are three other extra components. Can you open your notepad once? Notepad or wordpad, anything. So guys, remember, so in Docker, how we will create the container? Directly Docker run -dat, and whatever the options we need, we'll create, right? But in terms of Kubernetes, we don't create containers like that. There is some extra configuration required here. That is, first we'll create a deployment. Write down. Deployment is nothing but it is just a configuration about your container. It may be a pod actually, not container. So deployment is a configuration. Deployment is a configuration. Already you have these nodes in our Kubernetes nodes. Okay, just to make sure that you understand well, I'm writing it again. So deployment is a configuration about our pods. It always may pods, PODS.
Oh, PODS. Okay.
Yes, pod. Yeah. So I'll explain what is pod. Don't worry. So it always maintains. Maybe instead of pod, do one thing. Information about our pods. Okay, that's fine. That is correct only. Information about pods. No problem. Open that. Our pods, which is always responsible to maintain the status of maybe instead of status of maintain the pod status. Maintain the pod status. Now write then what is pod. So pod is a virtual entity, virtual component, which is created in worker node to hold a container. Okay, now container. So already knows the container, no need to give container definition. Now let me share my screen so I'll explain very clearly how it works exactly. So this is my master node, and these are my worker nodes. So from my master node, what I will do, I'll create a deployment in my master node. So this is deployment. So deployment is nothing but just information, maybe configuration I can say. So when you create a deployment related to, so here I will give you the image name, what image I have to use. for this deployment. Okay, so immediately what will happen here, like it will come to the worker node. Under this, it will create one pod. Again, pod is a virtual entity. Okay, one layer, and inside that, a container will be created.
So what is the
So
deployment you say?
that's what, it's just a configuration.
Okay.
So this is a configuration about your pod and container.
Okay.
What it will do means it will always maintain the status of your pod. What is the status of my pod? Whether is it running or not? Is there any issues in this pod or not? In terms of configuration, is there any issues with this pod? Is it correctly functioning or not? If it is not running, again immediately it will recreate this pod again. Let's assume that this worker node got down. So again, what it will do, deployment only will monitor this pod, right? So it knows it. Deployment came to know that my pod is not running. Something happened here. So it will try to recreate here itself. But if it is not available, what it will do? Immediately it will log into other worker node. Here it will recreate this pod. That is what deployment role. So
Everything is
deployment is just a configuration, and it will always monitor this pod related to this. Every deployment has one pod. You can have multiple pod also. You'll come to know later. So like how it works and all. But as of now, so we don't create containers directly. First, we'll create a deployment. Deployment will create a pod and container. That is how it works here. Okay. Now let's jump on to yes, Damanshu, you are asking something.
so all you say that if anything wrong with the pod, it will create another one. So everything is by itself automatic.
Yes, that's what your deployment will take care of that.
Oh, okay.
It will recreate this pod again if this pod is not working properly. If this pod is maybe corrupted and it's in a stopped state now, or maybe you deleted by mistakenly this pod,
Okay.
even then also this deployment will recreate it always. Until unless this deployment is there, your pod will be up and running. That is the main focus.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Now let's go ahead with your screen.
Did you share? Okay.
And meanwhile, can you open your Kubernetes notes? Actually, I uploaded yesterday's notes. Can you open
Okay. Cool.
Kubernetes
Okay. Kubernetes.
here installation? So guys, you can follow this very easily. Just run the first command. Can you copy the first one? Highlight it just. This whole is one command. Next, second, from there to below, come down. From there to again an evof. You can copy this evof also.
Oh, yeah. Also.
Yes. Up to here, one command. Again next, up to evof. Again, this is the third command. Don't give extra spaces like the here. See, he copied extra space also. He highlighted. Yeah, you should be exactly. Okay, up to here and press enter. It will ask you to press enter after this. Maybe you can give space also. That's fine. So after give one space. Now again from cat to evolve. Yeah, this is one command. Then after the last command.
Okay.
Within a 5 commands, your installation. You have to do all these steps in all nodes. Okay. Then after you have some extra steps in worker nodes and sorry master node and worker nodes. Those steps I haven't included here because you might be confused. That's the reason I given only these commands. Okay. So everybody you can follow this document to install your Kubernetes. So run these steps in all the nodes. After that, if you open yesterday's document, you will come to know what thing you have to run on master and what thing you have to run on slave machine worker nodes. Okay, yeah, it's enough now. Now let's create a deployment. Can you do this command first? kubectl get deployments. kubectl get deployments. Deployments both are same. So right away you don't have any deployment.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. Now create it. kubectl create deployment and give some name to deployment, any name your wish. It's related to generally the deployment name would be kind of your application name. Maybe let's take some Apache, something like that you have to give. Always the best practice is small letter.
Okay, small data.
You can give it, but the best practice is small letters. Yeah, space. It's not yet completed. Wait. Hyphen image. You have to provide the image name also. Equals to nginx. You cannot give normal commands here, normal images. The custom image you have to give here, which is already having application. So what I will do first before going with this deployment, I'll set up my Docker image already, full-fledged Docker image, which has my setup and all. So somewhere in Docker host, I'll do that setup first. I'll upload into my Docker hub, and after that I'll do this. Okay, because the normal content, normal image, it won't take. Can you give CentOS? Actually, it will create, but you cannot start it. The pods and all won't be started. Enter. We'll expect some application. Can you do get deployments? Same. Up arrow. See, 0 by 1 means actually one should be running, but currently it's 0. Can you check the pods? Automatically pod will be created. Same. Instead of deployment, use pods.
Here, right?
There itself. No need
Oh,
to
yeah.
go to
Oh,
your client. From master itself, you can manage it. Everything from master only. Same command, pods instead of
okay.
deployments.
That's all.
Pod or pods. See, still it is showing as 0 by 1 only. Actually, one should be running, but 0 is running. You
So what's
cannot
the
use
reason
the.
it's not starting?
That's why somewhere in the configuration. So right away, right, even I don't have a handy that information. But
Oh,
normal images you cannot use it. You
okay.
should have your applications running already. That CMD prompt and all. Then only it will take.
Okay.
Okay. So let's create one more deployment. Delete that deployment. How to delete? Simple. kubectl delete deployment name. Deployment name. Yes, that is your deployment name. Okay. Your pod also will be deleted automatically if you delete your deployment. Check. Deployment also will be deleted. Pod also,
Mm.
because your pod is getting created with the deployment only, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's create one more deployment
Actually, I'm not
with some
getting why
custom.
we are not using CentOS and we can use only Nginx.
That's what. I'll check and let you know.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Right
okay,
away, I don't have that information.
okay,
Okay. The base image you cannot take.
okay, okay.
Always the custom image with the application only you can use. Okay.
Got it.
Nginx is one, but you can take any other custom image also, which has your application. Okay.
Okay.
As of now, example, use this application. Yeah. Enter. Now just use up arrow. So automatically deployment will be created and pods also will be created. First check deployment. So you given same name to this also. No? Okay.
Yes.
You deleted earlier one, right? Yes,
Yes.
you can enter.
Okay.
See, one is running now. One should be available and one is running. Again check the pods. See, So pod is nothing but again inside pod container will be running. How can I log into that container? Means simple. kubectl execute -it space your pod name,
Pod name, yeah.
complete name. Yes. Space /bin/bash. I think one port should be open actually directly. Okay, enter it. Anyway, it will throw an error. Okay, use -hyphen after before that -bash /bin/bash.
Okay. Yeah. Control C, right?
Control C.
No, I can't.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, it's working already. But as I told you, you should open some port. Wait, I don't remember that port number. It will ask you. It will throw an error now. Just yeah. So 10,250. Open that port in master.
Okay.
In worker node, not in master.
Both worker node?
Yes.
Okay.
Because your pods are running in your worker node now, right? You are trying to log into it. Your container is available currently in your pod, so your worker node, right?
Yes.
So now I am trying to log into my container from master. So that's the reason. Like you have to open that 10,250. 10,250 it's related to Kubernetes.
Okay. Right?
In all the worker nodes, you have to open it. Otherwise, you cannot use it. Yeah, save the rule.
Okay.
On both the nodes.
Yes. I guess it will come automatically for here as
Okay,
well.
so both are same because okay.
Yeah.
Now go back. Now try to log in.
Right? Same command?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're in your container. Just it is a warning.
Okay.
It's asking to use -hyphen also before that /bin/bash.
Okay.
Okay, just is saying that in future versions it is deprecated. In future version you cannot use this command. You have to use -hyphen also. That's the syntax. Now
Okay.
you're in container. You're in a pod means you're in a container now. You can do whatever you know. So general Docker container only now.
So how do we know we
Okay.
are in container? Oh yeah, this is
You can see the
okay,
prompt,
yeah.
right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're in a container now.
Mhm.
Because in right away I do have only one container in that part, so I can directly log in. You can have multiple containers also. We'll discuss about that later.
Okay.
Okay, so as of now, let's go with one container. You'll come to know how we can build multiple containers also within a single part. In a single deployment, I can have multiple containers.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll discuss that. Don't worry. Now exit. So clear the screen. Now do that kubectl get deployment again. Use -o wide with the same option. So
-y.
-o wide command option will work for any command, kubectl command. -o space wide.
Wo means
Run it first. I will tell you.
wo
-o space o just o.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah. Wide.
wide.
WID. Yes. Means it will show you your output in a bigger format, clear format. So what exactly, which image you are using, what is your container name? Your container name is also Nginx. Your image name is Nginx. Okay, so it will show. Now, can you do the same thing for a pods also?
Okay.
kubectl get pods -o wide. So -o wide will show you clear information. See, I can see where exactly my pod is running. In which pod, in which worker node my pod is running now? worker node 2.
Worker node 2. Yes, yeah. Sorry.
Yes. And the 10.244 1.5 is my pod address, my pod IP address.
Okay.
Okay.
So it will select by itself worker node 1 or 2
Yes.
by, right?
Yes. By
Okay.
default, your master knows it, like which server, which worker node is free now. Maybe which server node is capable to create my pod. So
Okay.
create one more deployment.
Okay. Uh,
Now it
oops.
will select worker node 1.
Create deployment in Apache 1. Okay. Right?
Yeah. So one more application. For
Okay.
each application, I'll take one more deployment. Maybe for, let's assume that this is for database. Database related image I have to give. But as of now, go ahead. No issues.
Okay.
Now check it. Which worker node it's running now?
Yeah. Ports.
-o wide.
Oh yeah. 1.
Create one more time now.
One more time.
Again, one more deployment.
One more. Okay.
Apache 2.
Apache 2.
Check it now.
1.
See? Randomly it will take.
It will take randomly. Yeah.
Which worker node is capable? Your master will decide it. But later point of time, even you can give it. So I want to create my pod only on worker node. You can do that. You can select it. That is your wish. But by default, you don't need to give. Okay. Now, can you delete your pod?
Okay.
kubectl delete. Commands are similar, guys. Only you have to replace your component. Earlier, what I did for deployment, kubectl delete deployment name. Here also same. Delete pod name.
Only 1.
Now immediately run your pod again. Up arrow. See again 3 commands, 3 pods.
Still running.
Why? What is the reason?
Um.
Because your deployment is running.
Oh, it's changing to 2.
That's what
Maybe.
the IP. It will create a pod, one more pod immediately.
Oh, you want to be
Unless the
deleted.
deployment.
Yeah.
Unless the deployment is available, the pod will be available. If you delete your pod, automatically it will be created because the deployment is available.
Oh, I got
Deployment is the configuration.
it.
Okay, always your pod will be available. That is the purpose of deployment. Even you can create your pod directly also without deployment also. But what is the difference if I create a pod with deployment and if I create without deployment? Means, let's assume that if I create a pod with deployment, your pod got deleted. Again, it will be recreated. But if I created my pod without deployment, what will happen then?
It won't create.
There is no management.
Mm-hmm.
It won't recreate again if you delete it. That is the difference. Okay. So, like deployment is just a configuration. It is a manager for that particular pod. It is responsible to manage the status of your pod always, whether the pod is running or not. If the pod is not running, immediately it will recreate it. That is
So,
the advantage of deployment.
yeah,
Yes.
you mean to say like without deployment, what is the meaning of pod? Like, whatever we deployed, we deployed some code, then it will create one container, one pod, and inside that whatever the application will be installed. Without deployment, what it will be there in that pod?
Okay, let me show you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so deployment is nothing. Here in terms of Kubernetes, deployment meaning is different. Not that deploying the application into some server. It's not that meaning. Here deployment is one component, Kubernetes component. Okay, so that is just a configuration about your pod. It is not the deployment which you are referring. That word is different. Kubernetes component deployment means only the configuration, information about your pod, not like deploying your application on top of something. That word is different. Okay. So here the component name itself deployment. Here just assume that, so as I told you, when you create a deployment, one configuration, so it will go to one of the worker node, whichever is free, whichever is capable. So it will create a pod. On top of it, it will create a container, right? So let's assume that if I don't have this deployment, so without this deployment also, I can create my pod. So now, so again, the command would be same, but some option would be there for that. So without deployment, now deployment won't be available for that. Directly only pod. Okay. Now if this pod got corrupted, maybe deleted, so it won't recreate because there is no manager here. That is what happened when you don't have deployment. It is not a deployment. I mean that deployment you are referring. The word you are referring is deployment is nothing but deploying some application on top of some server, right? That is
Yes.
different. This is just a configuration here. This is the kubectl component, Kubernetes component. This terminology is different.
So
This information.
previously in the command we have given one image name. So
Yes,
first give CentOS and after that.
yes,
So it means like it's a virtual comment server gonna generate, right?
exactly. You're right. The
So here,
container one.
yeah, virtual container will generate, right? Container will generate.
Yes. So in terms of Docker, directly what I am doing, I am creating container here itself, right? But
Yes.
here container won't create first. First, this pod will be created. Why they added this things means because again there will be little difference in network component, network stuff and all. Instead of creating a container directly, they introduce one more layer called this pod. Okay, because the network here will be used to communicate between the container is different. You will come to know in some point of time. Okay.
Okay. And
Yes.
another, yeah, what
Yes.
about security? In Docker, containers are there. So
Mm.
whoever having that host login, they can log into any of the container in that
Yes, you're right.
host. So there will be no
Yes.
security. Like, for example, one Java developer having one container in that host, maybe some other Linux team having some other containers. So Java developer can come and access
No,
Linux.
generally we don't like a host such kind of containers like that. So only related containers will place in one Docker host.
Okay.
Only that developer related, that development team related maybe containers will place in that Docker host. We won't place different. Let's assume that Suma is from different team. Okay, she don't have any dependency with my containers. And in that case, what I will do, I'll create a Docker host for myself separate and for yourself also separate. In the same way in Kubernetes also, I'll have master and worker nodes for my team separate and for your team is also separate.
Okay.
In case if you need a secure additional security,
So
like if you don't want to give, I'm sorry.
in real time, can I expect like, one container is for development, one container is for UAT or QA. So will that I mean, in real time, is it possible? I mean, how it
Yes,
will be in real
definitely,
time?
definitely it is possible.
It possible?
Development
How?
Kubernetes will be separate.
Okay.
QA deployments will be separate. Production master worker nodes will be separate. You won't maintain all this stuff in a single worker node, single setup.
Docker host.
Well, yes. Obviously, you will have dev Docker host separate, QA Docker host separate, productions Docker host separate. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it is possible. Yes.
One question from
Yes.
suppose if we delete the deployment, is there a possibility? Do we have any backups? Or you
Yes,
said like
definitely.
okay, you said like a
Definitely
with
it is.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely backups can be possible.
Okay, because you
So,
mentioned it with the pod and
one
without
more,
pod, right? For that
yes.
reason.
So, one more thing here, it is similar to container only. So, in terms of container, let's assume that Docker host. Okay, here I do have one container. Actually, like, how do I take a backup for this? So, this container, anyway, I have image. And apart from this image, I can have additional storage for my application data, right? This
Yeah.
container data I cannot maintain. Maybe I can maintain with the image backups. Directly I can recreate my container with my image itself. But what about the application data? Application data cannot be saved here. Again, you will have one more storage from here. That volume, did you remember? The additional volume. And in that volume only, I will save my application data and all. Here also the same concept happen. Again, this pod and container you are creating from your custom image itself. Again, if something happened to this pod, you can recreate with that pod with your image, right? Nothing will be there in that image. And obviously your application data, you will have one more storage, extra storage. Here also you can attach the volume for your worker nodes. Your application data will be available in that extra volumes only, right? Not in a actual container. So obviously it doesn't matter whether you have a deployment or whether you have a pod or not. If the pod is corrupted, you can recreate your pod, right? Again, you have an image, custom image. There already you have all the setup. You no need to redo it, right? Simply I can recreate my pod and attach your volume again. It will be same as it is like earlier. Yes or no?
Yeah. But
So
here,
same
what is
pod.
it's a
Yeah.
basic question.
Yeah.
Exactly here, what is mean by pod? Can we consider it as a layer?
Yes, exactly. It's kind of a VM again.
Okay.
Okay, so under that VM, you are having one more one container. It's kind of a layer, I can say, VM, I can say, virtual component.
Okay.
Okay,
Got you.
yeah.
Okay, got
Under that,
Aman,
a container. Yes.
uh, every pod have the independent deployment, or we can have multiple pods for one deployment.
Yes. Yes, definitely. But those are called as replicas. You will come to know that part also. Again, as I told you in yesterday's class, so let's assume that I given a multiple scenarios. So did you remember that? Just a minute. Let's assume that I do have one Docker host. I do have multiple containers, different applications. Okay, multiple containers. And let's assume that this Docker host is down. Obviously, my containers will be down, right? So that is one part. So what that thing I'm able to manage with worker nodes. And one more thing, as I told you, let's assume that here my application, HTTPD application is running. Okay, so customer, maybe this is my laptop. Here I opened this website, whatever the website address it has. Okay, so that point of time, what will happen? It will connect to this container, right? So let's assume that at the same time, thousands of connections I'm getting, maybe 1,000, 10,000, 20,000. So obviously the customer will face latency in the response because the same server, so it cannot be again more than this load, right? Whatever the capability, even if it has the capability to serve the request also, as the number of connections, number of requests are more, obviously the response will be little delay. right? So in terms of Kubernetes, I can maintain multiple servers, multiple applications instead of one container. But here in Docker host, I don't have that option. So for the same server, for the same application, I cannot maintain multiple containers. If you maintain, maybe you may think that I can build one more container with the same application, but there won't be any connection between these two. Customer should connect to this container individually. They don't do that, right? So are we doing like google1.com, google2.com, google3.com, something like that? No, right? In backend, they have number of servers, thousands of servers, but we are connecting just google.com, right? There should be a load balancer in between. So we cannot create load balancer in Docker containers if you go with Docker host again directly. But in terms of my Kubernetes, what I can do, just assume that this is my, I'm sorry, this is my master, this is my worker nodes. Here, for a single deployment, while creating deployment, this is my deployment. I can say 2 containers for the same application. So in that case, what I will do, so a pod will be created here and a container will be created here. In the same way, for the same deployment, I can create one more pod also. Both will be same replicas. So whatever the application you have here, the same application will be running here, and you can create a load balancer between them. Between these two pods, which has the same applications running here and here, and the customer will connect to this load balancer only. This load balancer will get one IP, google.com, and your applications are running on both the servers, both the containers. You have this is called as replicas. You can maintain multiple parts for the same deployment. Mean this also has the same information, this also, because both are from the same deployment, right? And when customer connect to this load balancer, it will take care to which container it should connect. Both have the same information. You can connect, it will connect to one of the container which has less load, and that information will be passed to your customer. That is how it works. Okay, is your doubt clarified now?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay, this is how parts. So we'll see this load balancer concept and all, scaling and all. Don't worry. Yeah, go ahead now, Damanshu.
Yes. Just one question. Let's say for some reason, worst case scenario, if deployment got corrupted, then
Again, you can recreate it. Yes, it is possible.
okay.
Definitely, it's possible.
Yeah.
You can recreate it.
But for the deployment, we have connected two worker nodes, so they are gone, or it will be there.
No, already created one, they won't be there won't be any problem. But if
Okay.
at all it's completely deleted, and there won't be any communication between the master, the deployment and worker, that pods now, if the
Oh.
deployment is corrupted.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can
Let's
create a
assume that
new
my master node is down.
yes.
My master node is down. So obviously there won't be connection between your worker nodes, right?
Yeah.
Those containers will be up and running
Oh.
until unless something happens. Yes, it is possible.
Oh.
But what will happen if something happened to that pod? There is no manager.
Yes.
Nothing. It won't come back again.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, yes.
So that is how it works. Even
Oh.
master node is not available. Also, your pods will work.
Pods will
But
work.
there won't be any manager. So management. If something happened, there is no one to take care, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is how it works.
Okay.
Now clear the screen. Okay. So as per as I told you, we can create replicas for the same deployment. Means multiple parts. Can you do kubectl get parts, get deployments, get parts, both? Parts also. Now let's assume that for Apache application, my load got increased. The number of customers, okay, number of connections I'm getting more. So that one container I'm unable to maybe unable to serve the request to customers. Now I can scale it at
But
any point of time. Yes.
but we did not create a container yet, right? This is just pod.
For already in pod container will be that's what happening, right? Automatically it will be created. You know
Okay.
it. So deployment, you created a deployment main, automatically a layer will be created. Inside that container will be there.
So this is like 3 container, right? You can say.
Exactly. Three
Okay.
different containers.
Okay, got it.
Yes. Okay. Now I can scale also. Do it. kubectl scale means the same deployment. I'm going to create one more pod with the same information. Scale deployment name. Deployment deployment name Apache space -- replicas.
Like
If required, I can create like this. It's your wish. I want to maintain multiple replicas, multiple pods. So this is a availability purpose, high availability. If one worker node is down also, so I have one more pod in my another worker node, right? So that is still working. Your application won't be down. Replica, replicas, that's it. Not cast, replicas. Replicas
yes.
equals to without space. How many replicas you need? 2, 3, 4. Already one is there, right? So it will be including maybe 2, 3, 4, your wish. Maybe give 3. It will create 3 replicas. Already one will be there, 2 more will be created. Enter.
Actually, I'm not getting why we are using this command. What it
We are
will do?
creating the same pod again, same application for the high availability purpose.
In
Open your
same
pod now.
okay, systems
Okay, I'll show you. Again, I will show you one more time. Can you check deployments now? See, for Apache deployment, you have 3 pods.
So
As
it
I
will
told you,
okay.
Yeah, just a minute. Let me share my screen so that you can understand very clear.
Yeah, please.
So first, in terms of Docker, as I told you,
Yeah.
let's assume that I do have one application, one HTTPD. My website is running in this container. Okay.
Yeah.
So if number of requests is more, so actually it is capable. Maybe like up to 1,000, maybe 10,000 requests it is capable up to at the same time. Okay. So let's assume that even though it is capable, if I get 10,000 requests at the same time, what will happen? There will be little latency
Yes.
because again the same container should respond to everybody, right? There should be little latency because I have only one container here. Okay, but even though I have one more container for the same application, I cannot like again create a load balancer between them because even though let's assume that youtube.com actually there won't be one server, there will be hundreds of servers running in the background for the same application.
Yes.
But are we so every application, every host should have an IP address, right?
Yes.
Are we connecting through IP address like for each server, like YouTube 1, YouTube 2, YouTube 3, something like that?
No.
We have only one common IP, one common name. How you are able to connect to all that many servers if you have one name? Actually, there is a concept called load balancer.
Okay.
Okay, what is load balancer? If you group them, these two containers with a load balancer, you will get one common IP, and the customer will connect to that IP only, and that load balancer will redirect the like request to one of the container. But right, but here in Docker host there is no concept like load balancer. You cannot do that. Okay, so that's where Kubernetes comes into picture. In Kubernetes, we have that concept. Here, what I am doing, so deployment is nothing but one configuration, one image. I'm giving one image. I'm asking to create a content. Leave it about pod.
Mhm.
So obviously, in final, I'm creating my container only, right? So I want to create two containers for the same application.
Okay.
So in both the containers, I have the same application. And finally, I will create a load balancer. I'll get a common IP for that load balancer. And so customer will connect to that load balancer only. And load balancer will send the traffic to one of the container. That is
Okay.
why I'm creating replicas. Replicas means same containers for the
So
same deployment.
how it will decide like let's say if we assign replicas 3 here, so how it will decide like 2 will go to the node 1, worker node 1, and 1 will go to worker node 2.
That's what always master knows it. What is the capacity of worker node and worker node 2? It
Okay.
has the information about your RAM, CPU, and all. So in that information, based on that information, your worker node, so your master will decide that to
Got
which node I have to again build my container.
Okay.
You no need to take care of that. Your master will take care.
Okay.
Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you
So
mean to say
now,
like
yeah,
if
tell me.
one worker node can have multiple replicas of same containers?
Yes, it is also possible. You can
Oh,
maintain the same. Let's assume that for the same deployment, I can have multiple containers in the same worker node. It is also possible, and in multiple worker nodes, I have the same containers also, replicas also. Both are possible. Let's assume that. So let me show you. Okay, for the same deployment, I do have replicas. Okay, so both are same container only because these two are from same deployment. Obviously, whatever the image I given, with that image only a container will be created here. Pod inside that container, right?
Yes.
For suppose if this worker node down, what will happen? Still this container will be available, and this container also will come here for some time. But the response will be slow because this worker node will get now more load, right? Because this content, this whatever the parts you have here also will come here, and this worker node will be again the load will be increased on. So immediately you'll get a again you will have notifications, right? Monitoring. You have to again make this up, this worker node immediately. What happened? You have to resolve this issue. Again, you have to switch back this whatever the worker nodes you have here to here. Then it will work as it should. Okay. You can deploy your containers like maybe while creating deployment or while scaling, your wish. You can tell that my container should go to this worker node. My part should go to this container, this worker node. You can say that. If you don't say that, your master will take care of that. And to which worker node my container should go. That is how it works. Okay. So is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay. Good. So replicas means same application, same container for the same deployment. We'll have the
Amar,
same application running. Yes.
if we give replicas beyond the capacity of worker nodes, it won't create.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So it will uh, try to create, but the containers will be again cannot start because of the load.
How many maximum, like 3, 5?
It's not like that. Based on your worker node. If your worker node has capacity, you can create even 1,000 also.
Okay, depends on, yes.
Yes, depends on the worker node capacity.
Yes.
You should know that how much load like your container can get.
Okay.
Based on that, you like again you should maintain your worker node capacity.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello, Amar. I have one doubt. Hello.
Yes. Tell me.
If we this Kubernetes we will install on top of Docker, right?
Yes. So Docker should be there.
Okay. How we will use that Docker containers in Kubernetes? We are again creating means no ports
Again, Docker
deploy.
is an application, right? Docker is an
Okay.
application. So again, on top of Docker application only, you are adding additional configuration by installing Kubernetes.
That's what. How we will use that containers in this Kubernetes? See, if we already created containers in Docker, so how can we
That is
manage that
again.
container?
So that's whatever if you create a containers by using Docker, that is different again. That is different configuration. You cannot manage with Kubernetes.
Okay,
Whatever the
so we will
containers
not.
you created in Kubernetes, only you can manage.
Little
Yes,
bit confusion. So if we use this Kubernetes, no need means we will not do anything in Docker, right? We can manage everything
we are
in
not using
Kubernetes
Docker
only.
commands. If you use Kubernetes installed on top of this machine, you no need to use Docker commands. Again, Docker is maybe how can I say? What is the best example for this? Maybe I have to rethink about the example. Okay, so I'll try to get the example for that. But
Okay.
definitely, let's assume that I have a Docker host. I installed Docker and I created a container with the Docker command. Those containers I cannot manage with Kubernetes because Kubernetes containers are different. The architecture of Kubernetes is completely different. You are using Docker here, but on top of Docker, again, additional configuration will be there for Kubernetes. So both are different.
So
This is
again, we need
additional.
to create a
Yes.
new containers, and again we need to
But you are not creating containers directly, right? Here in Kubernetes also I'm using containers. But are you creating with Docker run command? No, right?
no,
This
that's what I
this
mean.
will use
If
different
Docker,
architecture.
everything set up in Docker, and means later we install Kubernetes, how we can manage that
No, you
old
cannot
Docker?
you you cannot maintain those containers here. That's what. Again, Docker, let's assume that I have a container. Okay. It's already running in Docker. And I want to go with Kubernetes. In that case, what I will do, I'll set up a new setup. I don't do this in the same server. In the same server, I won't do. Again, this is just Docker host. For
What
Kubernetes,
about
I
the
need the
data and everything?
data simple volumes only, right? You will attach the volumes. How come
Huh.
in Docker container you don't maintain anything at all? We
That
discussed
volumes we
already
can
about this.
manage.
Yes, we can. So again, those volumes you can take backup like by using again snapshots and all. There are multiple options. You can take the backup and the same volumes you can attach it to Kubernetes also.
Okay.
Yes. In containers, remember one thing, in containers, you won't have anything. Application data and all, you won't have any type. Only image related, OS related, and application configuration will be there in container. That's it. Obviously, I do have a backup of my container. I created my custom image. If my container got corrupted, immediately I can recreate it, right? Already I have the backup. And about your data, you can get it from your volumes. Your data won't be stored under any container. You will attach extra volumes always. That is the best practice.
Okay, and while creating containers in Docker, we are giving more options like port numbers and restart
Yes, here
options,
also it
like
is
that. So
possible.
many.
Yes.
But here itself it is creating containers, right? How can
Yes.
we give those options
Here also we do have those options. Yes, you will come to know in coming classes, in
Okay.
later sessions. Okay.
Okay. Hmm.
Yes. So on top of Docker, again software, you are installing Kubernetes software. So you are getting more functionalities. Let's take maybe sample, maybe mobile phones. So in a previous days, we do have a basic phones, right? That is also phone, and my soft phone is also phone, right? Both are phones only. In both the phones, I can make calls. But why you are using soft phone instead of a basic phone? In soft phone, I have more options, right? Touch option is there. I can I can watch videos. Again, because here functionality, the code you have, the hardware you are using is different. Again, in some basic phone also, you have a different functionality, different hardware, different code you have. So that code will support up to that much only. You cannot watch videos in basic phone, right? In previous old phones, that is only for making calls. Now in soft phones, you have more options because the software you are using is different. Here also I'm able to call. Apart from that, I'm able to do other stuff, right? The same concept. If you go with Docker, you have limited options there. Options in the sense, I don't have replica option. I don't have load balancer option. I don't have high availability option. But here in terms of Kubernetes, I'm maintaining 3 worker nodes. The software I'm using is different. Again, the architecture would be different. Here I have high availability option. Here I have load balancer option. So obviously there will be a difference. Okay, the data and all, definitely you can manage with the help of volumes. So already we discussed about the volumes in Docker. In Kubernetes also we'll discuss about the volumes. Don't worry. You don't store the data in containers. The containers will be always customized images. You can recreate it any point of time. It will be as it is again if something happened to it. You will come in the later sessions, how to open the ports and all. Okay, so that is the next topic.
Okay.
And I think as
Is
of
there
now it's
any
enough.
chance to ask? Is there any chance to ask means a developer or anyone to means the
I'm sorry.
the same container in Docker means image, the same image they are like get installed or some options is there, right? The same image can we means the same replica can we
In Docker, if you go with Docker, no, you cannot. If you go with a Kubernetes, you can create replicas.
yeah, we can create means we can create a container with the same means the same like Docker container, same, yes, same image. How can we create? How can we know that that Docker image has these means like git install or port number? How can we know?
Again, so as I'm creating, definitely I should know that. The image names also will be like that only, right? I'll create a container name also in the same way. I have hyphen name option, right? So while
Yes.
creating, I'll give the name. So this is CentOS machine git 2. That is the reason I'm giving my customized image names in that way. While doing it, while creating my customized image, I know it, right? So what are the things I know? I installed it. Based on that only, I'll create a name. And even while creating the container also, I'll give the name to my container. This is Apache machine. This is CentOS machine. This is database machine. So that is the reason. But so if you don't give names, obviously you cannot know that. You have to log in, then only you will come to know. Oh, this like you have Git here, you have Apache here, right? If you don't give name,
Yes,
obviously I cannot
if
identify.
like 5-10 containers is okay, but in real time there are multiple containers with multiple
Any
options.
number of
How
containers, you will give all the container like namings, right? So you will maintain some maybe some Excel sheet. So this container is available in this Docker host, something like that.
yes, how can we means how can we again we need to create the whole stuff in Kubernetes, means like 100 or 200 containers and full setup already done in Docker. How can
Mhm.
we can create a
Again,
same setup
yes,
is little bit difficult, right? We can check
definitely it is
each and
difficult.
every image, and we can create each and every container, and how can we manage that?
Yes, definitely. So like it is difficult only, but obviously if I want to go with Kubernetes, I have to do it. I'll do one by one again. Again, it's a new setup, right? So earlier, let's assume
Yes,
that I'm already using Docker. Okay. So I want to go with Kubernetes. Initially, definitely it will take some time. But assume that I do have dev, QA, and production. Obviously, dev, QA, production all will be in same setup, right?
yes,
So only for development it will take time for you. Then what about QA and production? So whatever the setup I used for dev, those files and all, the same files I can use it for QA and production just by changing the names, right? Not only for Kubernetes, even let's assume that my setup is in, leave it about Docker. My setup is in on-premises. I want to build my setup, the same setup in my AWS. Definitely for develop environment, it will take some time for you initially because I have to get all the information. How many servers I have in my on-premises, what applications running, what versions running, what configuration I do have. Those steps and all I have to take care, right? It will take huge
yes.
time. Definitely to build your infrastructure on AWS from on-premises, it will take some time. Okay, initially for dev environment. So again, there are some shortcuts like Terraform, Ansible. For dev environment, it will take some time to set up those scripts and all. But for QA and production, so within a single click, just by changing the names, I can give it. So in the same way, let's assume that already my setup is there in Docker. Now I want to make high availability of my application by using Kubernetes. So obviously you will set up three types of servers, three environments. For development, separate Kubernetes. For QA, separate Kubernetes. For production, separate Kubernetes. Master worker node setup. And in development, I'll write a deployment files. So you did in command line right now. You have files also. So for automation, for okay, what you will do means you'll create all the deployment files for all your applications. Maybe you may have 200 applications, 200 containers already running on Docker hosts, different Docker hosts. So all your Docker files, sorry, here deployment files you will write in Kubernetes first in development environment. You will set up one by one. It will take time, some time. Obviously, the new setup will take. It's not like within a single single chat I cannot do, right? It will take some time. But for QA and production, hardly like within a one day I can make it just by changing the name. That is how it works. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. I think yeah, guys, it's enough for today. Again, in next class, maybe on Monday, we'll see more options in Kubernetes. Okay, so we can see whatever we do in Docker containers, we can do more than that in Kubernetes. So we'll do all those options in Kubernetes. Okay.
Aman, one question. Suppose if I
Yes.
want to install Kubernetes in my machine, do I need to pay extra amount? Do I need to for this?
I'm sorry, come again.
Suppose I want to install Kubernetes in my machine. Okay, do I need to pay any amount for this?
No, Kubernetes is a free of cost. Only for the machine where you are using. So like maybe is it EC2? For
Yeah.
that you have to pay for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Amar, I'm going to destroy EC2 instance, right?
Yes.
Okay. I guess.
Okay then.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Yeah. Okay, guys. It's enough for today. So again, we'll make it on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah. Bye.
Amar, did you upload the video on 14th episode?
Yes.
Okay, on YouTube, right?